right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to another Aquarium Online Academy. I'm going to go ahead and step on screen. Good morning. It's great to see everyone and to be here with you today. My name is Tina. I'm a part of the education team here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. But I am not alone in my studio. Today I have my friend Jeanette, who's going to be working behind the camera to control all of the wonderful magic that you're seeing behind me. Now, during our program today, I would love for you to interact with us just as much as we're interacting with you. That means that if you have any kinds of questions, comments, observations, or you just would like to say hello, please feel free to text us at 562-286-1838. That's if you're watching us live on July, what's today? The 15th. Thank you. July 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You're more than welcome to again text us at that number. This number is going to stay on the screen for a majority of our program today, so please feel free to utilize that number. If you are not watching us live on July 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, please feel free to still interact with us by emailing us questions or comments or hellos at live@lbaop.org. One of my coworkers does monitor that email, so they will be able to get back to you still, even if you're not watching us live right this very moment. So, my friends, today we're going to be talking about one of, in my opinion, the most amazing habitats. Some of these critters that we're going to talk about in the habitats, we actually have them here at the aquarium. But before I get too heavy into the content about what this kind of habitat is, I will say that we're going to be able to draw this habitat together today. So if you would like, feel free to pause this video. Feel free to grab a piece of paper, whether it's lined paper, printer paper, scratch paper, whatever you got. I have a couple of colored pencils with me as well. You're welcome to take some of those or any other kind of coloring medium, markers, crayons, whatever you would like. I also have a pencil with me as well to kind of sketch out our drawing. But the habitat that we're going to be talking about today is our wetland habitat. So behind me is, I know you can't really see it very well, but it is a video of a wetland. I would like for just a second to step off screen, and then I am going to have some of your observations kind of pouring on in. Feel free to make those observations again by texting this phone number 562-286-1838. I'll go ahead and step off screen for just a moment, and I would love to hear your observations. Oh, well, actually, I forgot to tell you what an observation is. I'm coming back on screen just really quickly. So an observation is something we do with our eyes. We use our sense of sight. This is what scientists do as well. When we are curious about our environment, we're curious about the world around us. So you will use your eyeballs. You will look around where you are standing, look around your habitat or your environment, and then you're basically just going to take some notes inside of your brain about what you're seeing around you. It could be shapes, colors. I'll even take predictions as well if you want to make predictions about the video behind me here. Then you are more than welcome to say, oh, I think the water's warm. I think the water's going to be cold. I think it's 6 o'clock right now over there. I will take anything. So again, we're using our eyeballs, our sense of sight, and we're taking a look about what's around us. So I'll step off screen for real now, and I want you to go ahead and make those observations. Once you've made those observations, you can text in those observations again at 562-286-1838. Let me know what it is that you are seeing. Again, it could be colors, movements, predictions to what kinds of animals do you think would want to live here? What kind of temperature do we think it is over there? Do we think it's chilly, very warm, or maybe in the middle, kind of temperate? What do you see? Oh, I think I saw some movement in the water in the bottom left corner. Maybe I couldn't tell what it was though, but I could definitely tell it was an animal that lives underwater. What do we think? I can go ahead and kick it off and get us started. So right off the bat, I'm noticing that it is around dusk time right now. So the sky is a beautiful pink, beautiful bluish color as well. And it's reflecting on this beautiful water. Now, it's not just water that I'm seeing over here. I'm also seeing a lot of greenery all back here But I'm also seeing what looks like a little channel. So the water seems to be going through the greenery, through the grass that way. I'm also seeing a bunch of trees, that beautiful, beautiful tree line. We're going to get to drawing this in a little bit. But what makes a wetland, or what is a wetland? So there can be multiple examples of a wetland. Wetlands can include areas such as marshes, bogs, swamps as well, or lakes. I want you to think of mangroves or ponds and rivers. What do all of these areas have in common? What do you think? What do all of those areas have in common? Do they have bodies of water? Absolutely, I would say so. Do they have some grass or greenery? Yeah, I would absolutely say so as well. So essentially, a wetland is an area where water covers the land either seasonally or permanently. So in this particular case, in this wetland that we're looking at over here, I would believe that this water stays here permanently. Now, what's really important about our wetlands is how biodiverse they are. This grass and this water holds so many different kinds of animals. Matter of fact, they can house about 10% of all known animal species, which is incredible. Now, unfortunately, over the last 300 years or so, we've lost a lot of our wetlands. We've lost about, I want to say, 87% of our wetlands. Now, both the water and the grass, as I mentioned, are biodiverse, which means they hold a variety of different kinds of animals. There are several different birds that call our wetlands home, like ducks, geese, kingfishers, sandpipers. There are also some mammals that call this habitat home too, like our otters, our beavers, even tigers, capybaras, in some areas that are not in the US, right? And of course, there are a lot of fish that love to swim within that water. Now, I would love to look a little bit closer at some of those animals and we'll talk about those adaptations. Now, an adaptation, do we happen to have that word that we can pull up perhaps? I don't know if I can make it magically appear over here. I can. Look at that. An adaptation is something on an animal's body that helps them survive in their habitat. So, for an example, as humans, what are these? What do we have here? We have our hands, right? Our hands have about 10 fingers on them for the most part. Now, these hands, does every single animal have hands like ours? No, right? Some animals have fins, some have wings, but there are even some animals that do have hands over here like us that might not use them like us. We use our hands to grab onto things, to hold onto things for balance, maybe to pull ourselves up places. We can also use our hands to feel around our environment, to pick up food and help us eat, and even to help communicate with our friends as well. Our hands are very important adaptation that us humans have that maybe not every single animal has. So now that we've kind of covered what an adaptation is, I'm going to have Jeanette surprise me with a wetland creature, and we're going to take a look at what adaptations they might have on their body. Let's see which one she would like to pull up first. Ah, excellent. This is one of our stilts, I believe. I want you to take a good long look at this animal. Does this bird look similar or different to a bird that you may or may not have seen in your backyard? Give me a thumbs up if you think similar, thumbs down if you think different. Thumbs in the middle if you're not too sure. I'll also take that. Let's see. Where are we at? Not too sure. I'm seeing some similar characteristics to some birds that I would see in my backyard, like these beautiful feathers that definitely help this animal get off the ground to fly. But I am seeing some differences. One of which, right over here, being this very funky looking beak. What are we noticing about that beak? If you were to describe this beak to someone who can't see a picture of this animal, how would you describe it? What words would you use to describe that beak? I might use the word long. I would say thin as well. I think those are two really good descriptors for this mouth, for this beak. This beak actually tells us a lot about what this animal is going to eat. As a matter of fact, a lot of the times when you look at an animal's mouth, whether it be a bird, a fish, a shark, or even a human, you can tell a lot about what their diet is based on the kind of mouth that they have. So, this long, thin beak that one of our stilts has tells me that they're looking for very, very small food. Do you think that a bird like this is going to be able to, let's say, hmm, eat a whole fish with that beak? Do you think a fish is going to be able to fit in that beak? No, I don't think so. It might be hard to grab onto that fish too because fish are very, very slimy and they're very, very wiggly once they're out of the water. So they might not be able to grab hold of that fish really well with this really long, skinny, thin beak. What they could do is poke around in the sand. Now, Jeanette, I believe I may have pulled up a video on our other computer with some stilts eating. If you wouldn't mind being able to find that and pulling that up for me, I will absolutely take a picture. Perfect. So we're seeing that this stilt right over here is half in the water, but also half out. So that also tells me that this bird's going to be finding some things that are in the water, but also has the ability to walk on land. What their primary diet's going to consist of, or at least what we feed them a lot here at the aquarium, are tiny little bugs called mealworms. So they're going to be looking for any kinds of bugs, insects, or worms that live within the sand or these shallow water areas. That's the thing with our mangroves as well. The water that is in our mangrove is not very deep, maybe only a couple of feet deep, but in most cases, you'll get pretty shallow areas, very similar to the tide pools that we have here in Southern California as well. Here's an excellent video of a couple of them digging into the sand. This is actually some of our chicks too. We're also feeding them a couple of pellets as well to get their nutrients. Notice how the chicks, their plumage or their feathers, are a lot different than their adult feathers, right? And that is also because they want to be able to blend in to their habitat. What kinds of colors are we seeing in their habitat? Besides that beautiful, what I think is a rosemary plant, I'm seeing a lot of brown, some green, but mostly that kind of tanner color. So that plumage, those grayish brown feathers, definitely help them blend into their environment a lot. This is a wonderful, wonderful video. Excellent. Now, I would love to pull up another animal, maybe a fish or a mammal that can also call our wetland home. Let's see which one Jeanette wants to surprise me with next. Ooh, let's see if we can find the animal that I would like to talk about next inside of this picture. I know I'm seeing a fish over in this kind of corner right over here, but we're actually not going to be looking at the fish that's here. We're going to be looking at another kind of fish. Let me know if you see it. Oh boy. Take a look at the sand. Take a look at the sand. And then once you're taking a look at the sand, see if you can find any inconsistencies, meaning difference in shape or size. I'm seeing an inconsistency right over here in the middle. Do we see this little blob? Do we see this little lump? I see two little eyeballs right here. This, my friends, is one of our sand dabs, also known as a tonguefish, I'm pretty sure as well. They have some amazing adaptations. One, of course, being the color of their body. They have this beautiful speckled tannish brown color to help them blend in with the sand, but not only does their color blend in with their sand, but the shape of their body does too. Notice how flat this creature is. That's to help them really get super flat again to make sure that no other animal sees them on the sand. Now, another fun fact about this creature, once they are adults, that's when both of their eyes go to the same side of their body. Let me explain that a little bit better. So, when they're juveniles, when they're born, when they're young, they have eyes on either side of their body, very similar to this fish that's right over here. But as they age, as they grow up, gradually one eye will actually start to shift and go over and meet the other eye on the other side of its body, which I think is absolutely incredible. It's an amazing adaptation. So that means their mouth is kind of like on the side or on the bottom of their body too. And they move like this, like a little ribbon in the sky, which I think is really cool. This is an amazing, amazing critter. Excellent. Let's see if we have another one that we can talk about some adaptations on. Hmm. Oh, this one might be a mammal. Let's see. Oh, I love this animal so much. Thank you, Jeanette. So this, my friends, what kind of animal is this? Do we know? It's a possum. Very, very good, my friend. So possum is, I think, one of the U.S.'s only marsupial. Is that correct? I believe so. So that means this animal is super, super special. Now, I know when a lot of us think of possums, we typically think about them eating a lot of trash, right? Or some might even label these animals as pests. But skunks, opossums, a lot of those critters, raccoons, while some might be considered pests, are actually very, very helpful for our environment because they do feed on a lot of that what's considered rubbish to help keep our areas nice and clean. It's super, super helpful to have these kinds of animals in a garden too, because they'll eat all of those other little smaller rodents that kind of get into your plants or get into your gardens. So this is another animal that does live in those wetlands areas. They get their fresh water from, of course, that body of water that calls our wetland home. And then their food is going to be able to live inside of those grassy areas. Again, like smaller rodents, maybe even some more insects as well. Now, when I say marsupial, that means that these animals have so many babies that they hold them in a little bit of a pocket on their belly, which is another incredible adaptation. Moms can hold several different pups on their bodies at once. You might see pictures or videos of kind of babies hanging on to mom, or maybe one might fall off every once in a while. But possums are incredible, incredible moms. And also, look at how cute that little face is. Kind of looks like my dog. I don't know why. I think it's the face. I think it's the whiskers and the long, cute little nose too. Excellent, my friends. Now, let's go ahead and jump back to any kind of aerial view of a wetland because together we're going to go ahead and start drawing our wetland. Ah, excellent aerial view. So we have a couple of wetlands here in Southern California as well. I believe Colorado Lagoon is one of our wetlands, and we have one kind of right near us down here at the aquarium. I forget the name of it. But did I mention what the largest one is? I don't think I have. The largest wetland exists in Bolivia. Now it's actually 17 million acres wide. Just to give some context, the home that I grew up in New Jersey has one singular acre. So if I had 17 million of my homes, that would be the size of the largest wetland. 17 million acres is also roughly about the size of North Dakota, the state of North Dakota here in the US. So that might give you a little bit of a perspective about how absolutely massive that wetland is. What's great about wetlands is that they do grow relatively fast as well. Now, seeing all this greenery, that also tells us that it can absorb a lot of carbon. What we know about plants is that they use or take the carbon out of our air and they produce oxygen for us. So not only is the wetland super important to all of that wonderful wildlife that call it home, but it's also important for us humans as well because it gives us a lot of the fresh air that we're breathing right now. Wetlands, rainforests, kelp forests, all kind of plant bearing or algae bearing habitats are really, really important in keeping our air quality nice and healthy. As a matter of fact, our wetlands are able to absorb about 50 times more carbon than a rainforest. That is insane to me, my friends. So when we draw our wetland, we're going to make kind of some sporadic patches of green mixed in with this beautiful blue body of water. So let's go ahead and jump over to my document camera really quick where I can draw out or at least start to sketch out our plan. So this is me. Hi, I'm over here at my document camera. I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil and start making that, I'm going to start making that tree line that we kind of saw earlier. So I'm going to make some little shrubs. Oh, I'm just now realizing you can't really see because it's pencil, but that's okay. And then I'm going to make another little background right over here. So I want you to think of this as a tree line, and then we're going to make our kind of body of water slash greenery right over here. I'm going to just jump right into colored pencil because I'm realizing that the pencil is a little bit too hard to see. I'm gonna go ahead and draw highlight with our black over here. So just making some wavy lines to represent some trees. Again, not all trees are the same size or shape or even color too. So I might make this into like this is the leaves of the tree over here. You know, it might not look the best, but that's okay. And then these are the trunks of the tree. You can go ahead and draw some lines, maybe a couple of branches. Again, I know this isn't the best. I'm not the most talented artist in the world, but maybe some of you are and you would like to draw a better wetland than me. And you know what? That is A-okay with me. Okay. Tree trunks. I'm just going to make this one very tree trunk straight. Like, okay, great. Awesome. That's our tree line. Let's go ahead and draw in where we would like. Do I want to do body of water first or do I want to do the greenery? I think I want to do the greenery. So I think I might do one patch of green right over here. But this patch, I want to make different shapes, or at least a interesting shape. Maybe a circular-ish patch here. Yeah, nice. Maybe a smaller little island here. And then another big patch of grass here. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Now, it might take me a very long time. You know what? Maybe if I turn down the brightness. Can I do that? How's that? Is that a little bit better or is that worse? I can't. I think there is good too. I can't really tell if that's better or worse. But then you can go ahead and draw in your little patches of grass. Now, this grass can be short, tall, whatever you would like, but remember, we need to have enough room for our animals to call home. I might attempt to draw an animal. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if it's going to go great or not. But you know what? This is my little wetland, and I can make it however I would like. Now, I'm making these patches not very even because, as I'm sure most of you know, nature is not perfect, my friends, and it's absolutely okay to make some mistakes. It's okay to want to try again because nature is always changing. Nature is always adapting, right? That word adaptation, always adapting to the new environment. Okay, these are my little grassy areas for my wetland. And now, oh, also, you don't have to make your wetland look exactly like mine. You can make yours look like whatever you would like. Now, I am using about three different types of blue because I simply could not make up my mind because they were all super pretty. And I am using all three to color in that water. This is excellent. It's starting to look like a wetland. I will take it. Now, I had mentioned my home back in New Jersey just before. I'm going to mention it one more time. I actually live in a wetland. So there are a lot of swamps near my house, and the area is called Pigeon Swamp because not that there are pigeons over there, but we get a lot of different kinds of birds and amphibians and frogs and turtles that love to call those waters home. That being said, a lot of our wetlands, especially the ones near my house, are protected. There are some times where people will go in to hunt the animals that live in wetlands, and that might not be the best thing because it's so important to have these incredibly biodiverse wetlands. I think, if I'm not mistaken, about one-fourth of the endangered species of the US call wetlands homes. So it's so important to help protect the species because they also help keep the land nice and healthy. Wetlands, again, are not only just important to the animals that call it home, but they're important to us humans too. I want you to think of a sand dune, kind of like on the beach. What do you think our sand dunes or even our coral reefs do for us humans? Think about that larger kind of body of or a larger structure, I'll say that. What do we think happens when really big waves come into contact with those coral reefs or to those sand dunes? Do you think water will be able to get up onto land? It would not. So, coral reefs and sand dunes are basically natural protection against some kinds of natural disasters, and wetlands kind of act the same exact way. Our wetlands are able to kind of help protect us humans from any kinds of flooding or hurricanes, different kinds of natural disasters like that. They are super, super important. Not only that, but they kind of act like natural water filters. So if you live in an area with a wetland, they are super important to making sure our water stays nice and clean because these grassy areas help absorb all of those toxins that are not very healthy for us or for other animals. There are a couple of other things that are threatening our wetlands. Some of those things can include, let's see, definitely overfishing or over hunting of the animals that call this place home. It could also be building dams. While in some areas dams could be helpful, some dams stop water from flowing down into these areas. And again, it's super important to have water here because it helps keep these animals nice and healthy, right? Last but certainly not least, pollution. There is something my friends called runoff. And runoff is essentially when all of the dirt and debris from land kind of gets pushed all the way down to I'm going to say the shoreline level because of the way our topography or the way our what's the word I'm looking for? Our geography is. So here in California, we have a lot of mountains, right? All of our beautiful mountain ranges. Every once in a while, when we get rain, the rain brings all the things that were on the mountains down to the bottom of the mountain. So it's really important for us humans to make sure that we clean up after ourselves because all of the things that we can leave on the streets or in our trash cans can actually wind up in areas just like this. And it's not just the physical trash, it's also the chemicals that we're using in our lawns and our gardens, or even the shampoo in your shower, because most of the drains lead to oceans, right, my friends? So it is super duper important to make sure that we are keeping our areas nice and healthy and nice and clean. I'm just trying to make some shadows over here. I know I've just been talking and coloring. This is very soothing. Make it look like it's a little bit darker, kind of like the first video that we saw, basically just coloring in some background. So in between my trees, making some shadows. I made my sky a little bit kind of darker, just like we saw in the beginning. Okay, and I can even kind of highlight my grass areas a little bit more with my darker green. Now, what are the animals that we just talked about? Does anyone remember? What are some of the animals that we saw? We saw a couple of birds. We saw those stilts. We saw some fish like that sand dab. We talked about the possums as well. So I might try, just try, to draw a stilt. I don't know about a possum. Stilts also have really long legs, right, to help them stay nice and dry when they're searching for their food. So I'm gonna use my pencil, and I think right over here, maybe. I think this is fine. I'm gonna draw those really long legs. I'm gonna make them bent because they have a really tall bend to them. Make some little feet, little sticks. Then I'm gonna draw their body, kind of similar to a teardrop. Like a little oval with some room for a tail at the end. Now for their noggin, just gonna make a circle. And then that really long beak. You know, that's not too bad. I was expecting it to look a little bit worse. And then there's their wing. Kind of looks like a kiwi, but that's okay. And then, my friends, you can draw whatever kind of animal you want. Maybe you want to draw a little sand dab over here, like we talked about, with their round bodies, laying flat, and a little triangle tail. You can do something like that. Nice. All right, not horrible. All right, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and jump back on screen and let's take a look at the aerial view of our wetlands again, my friends. Just to wrap up, oh, this is a wonderful video. All the importances? Just to wrap up how important our wetlands are, again, they are incredibly diverse. They are home to about 10% of all known species of animal. They are basically a giant ecosystem farmers market, right? All of this greenery helps keep our air nice and healthy. They produce so much oxygen for us, but also absorb a lot of the CO2 that's in the air as well. Some of the ways that we can help protect this habitat is if, of course, we educate others about all of the wonderful things that we've learned today here online with us. And you can also visit these habitats as well and help clean them up a little bit if you're seeing some trash. Same with on your beaches too. You can go to your beach, your local wetland, and you can just start picking some stuff up. And especially in your areas wherever you live at home, making sure that you're using reusable materials, you're keeping your areas nice and clean as well, you're recycling, limiting your use of single use plastics, and I already said educating and talking to others as well. But what was the last point that I wanted to make? I think that was pretty much it, my friends. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to email us at live@lbaop.org. I had a great time exploring with you today. I hope you continue to be curious and learn about our environment, continue to educate others, and share your passion about our environment. Be kind to one another and be kind to our planet, my friends. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again soon for another Aquarium Online Academy. Goodbye, everyone.